So Zia Yusuf, the chairman of the Reform Party, has been apparently bullied out of his position by the online right. And I thought we'd just talk briefly about some of this. We're going to talk a lot more about this on Monday on the podcast, so make sure you tune in for that. But I just wanted to cover a couple of the highlights, just because this is remarkable that it seems that Nigel Farage doesn't understand what reform is perceived to be for. This is a fascinating example. So you may remember that Sarah Pochin, the newest Reform MP who won her seat by 6 votes, asked Keir Starmer if he'd ban the burqa in the UK. And Reform, within minutes, came out and said, this is not party policy. Brilliant. Amazing, amazing take. So the party doesn't support its MP in asking the government if they're going to ban the burqa. And so Katie Hopkins obviously went, Zia Yusuf, Mohammed. A Reform Party UK spokesman says a burqa ban is not party policy. Is this you at work again, Mo? What's next? Sarah Pochin threatened you in the office. Need to report it to the police. Burqa ban must be party policy. Now, burqa ban, this is something that's common across Europe. Most of Europe has banned the burqa. Lots of Arab and Islamic countries have banned the burqa. And for some reason, we've decided, no, it was a UKIP party policy to ban the burqa. Like, this is a perfectly sensible thing, even if it is a sideshow and a distraction to the real issue. But anyway, moving on, Zia Yusuf replied saying, look, nothing to do with me, had no idea about the question, nor that it wasn't policy, busy with other stuff. I do think it's dumb for a party to ask the PM if they would do something the party itself wouldn't do. And so that kind of begs the question, well, who's in control of Reform's internal disavowal system then? Because they have one, because they've used it many times. As he says, you know, I learned about the question, the party's position, on my X feed. Yeah, sure, that's all well and good. But the problem is, we know that you have an internal disavowal system, and now it's not even clear who's operating it. Like, what's the deal? So anyway, then very shortly afterwards, Zia Yusuf resigned. He says this, 11 months ago, I became chairman of Reform. I've worked full-time as a volunteer to take the party from 14 to 30%, quadrupled its membership and delivered historic election results. I no longer believe working to get a Reform government elected is a good use of my time, and I hereby resign the office. This is a very sharply worded statement. This is, I mean, the very nature. Working to get a Reform government elected isn't a good use of my time. Oh, okay, that's sharp. That's a prickly response. And I don't doubt that a lot of this did come from the online right. A lot of people have been tweeting it with Zia for a long time, and honestly, a lot of it is because he is a Muslim. And so the question is, what is the moment calling for? Now, amusingly, Rupert Lowe ratioed him by more than 2 to 1, with just a picture of him in the sea, smiling, which genuinely hilarious. But you can see everyone underneath just bam, goodbye, because everyone hated Zia. Everyone hated Zia. There's no particular reason that he should have been able to buy his way into the party anyway, become the chairman, and then make a series of decisions. So the question is, why did this happen? Well, by the way, as well, the leader of Reform UK Doge also resigned at the same time, which is interesting. But anyway, Nigel Farage decided to go and blame it on GB News on alt-right trolls, which he just means the sort of online nativist British right.
On X in particular, it's full of vile trolls, particularly the alt-right types, who have been just outright horrific towards Zia right from the very start.
Thing is, these people represent just everyone. Like, then there's online bots as well.
I think that the persistent campaign against him on X, and much of it coming from Indian bots,
right,
has perhaps, made some Reform members question him, question his motives. All of that's completely unfair.
No, the membership are the online right and the trolls that you're talking about. It's people who are Reform members, and they are not happy that Zia Yusuf, one, is a Muslim. Right? Now, you can say, I don't like it, that's alt-right, that's racist, that's nativist, whatever. Okay, but that's the space that you occupy with the Reform Party. The point in people's minds is that Reform is meant to be a nativist party that is concerned about the British people themselves, whereas Farage isn't. Tice isn't. What they're concerned about are the institutions of Britain. Will the trains run on time? Will people be able to buy houses? Will the government manage this? Will the NHS collapse? They're concerned about the public institutions of the country, not the integrity of the people themselves. And this has been the thing that has been misread in this whole scheme. So Nigel Farage was like, okay, well, I can just take a Muslim, I can let him buy his way to the top of the party for 200,000 and then let him make executive decisions. And because Farage is fundamentally a lib, he just expected all of his base to go, yeah, okay, that's all totally fine. When actually, a lot of them are like, no, Islamic civilization is not our civilization, and we don't want it to be taking over the country. And yet, this is what he's stuck with. He doesn't understand that this is the case. He's lived in this sort of delusional 1 foot in, 1 foot out paradigm where he's been like, yeah, I'm going to flank to the nativist side, but every time, but only when it's strategically necessary, and then pitch back to the center where we're just colorblind liberals. And it's like, okay, but that's a paradigm whose window of opportunity is rapidly closing, right? And you putting Zia Yusuf in charge and then just letting him run, it was bound to get this kind of backlash, right? Because whether you like it or not, to these people, representation matters. To the British public, representation matters. It was one of the hurdles that Rishi Sunak was always going to have, and it's the hurdle that Kemi Badenoch has. Because what do they make present when they are representing you? And the answer is foreigners. And so you were like, yeah, in an era of mass immigration, I'm going to put an anti-immigration. I'm going to put a Muslim man in charge of the party. Now, you can make all the judgments you want about that being the case. You can say, oh, I don't like it. I don't like this racism. I don't like that. Okay, that's great. And good for you. You're very liberal. Well done. Round of applause. But the point is that we're still in the moment we're in. It is not the time for you to have a Muslim chairman taking control of what is supposed to be the right-wing nativist party in the minds of the people who support you. So you can complain about it all you want, but it was your misjudgment of the circumstance that led you to this point. You should all, I mean, it would have been fine to have had Zia Yusuf on board as like, you know, a patriotic minority who wants to also support the country. But putting him in charge of the party and then just telling him to just crack on, that's not wise. I mean, this is from Lisa Nandy, who is a Labour cabinet minister. And she said, quote, the north of England could go up in flames. This is wild. Nandy mentioned to me that the north of England was so tense it could go up in flames. What does she mean exactly? Last summer when we had the horrendous murder of those girls in Southport, there was already a real sense of tension in the north. People have watched their town centres falling apart. Their life has got harder over the decade and a half. I don't remember a time when people worked this hard and had so little to show for it. She referenced again the huge pressures on housing and then said all of that fueled a real sense of anger about what people are being asked to put up with. And it all really came to a head in Southport because, as you know, your children being safe, your community being a decent place to live. It was one of those absolute flashpoint moments, a moment of release. I don't mean the organised violent thuggery. People rejected that very strongly here, but want to speak out, be heard. So what Lisa Nandy is not talking about is demographic change. Right? People are being asked to put up with watching themselves and their children be disinherited from their own country, and occasionally that gets really, really violent. And so this is the context in which Nigel Farage is like, yes, I'm going to put Zia Yusuf in charge. So, I mean, again, you can complain about racism until the cows come home, but this is the moment in which we live, where people are demanding nativist representation. And so Nigel can complain about the online right bullying Zia Yusuf because he is a Muslim and not demographically what they expected in the right-wing nativist party. But it's not just that. Because the right wing, it is demanding not just formal descriptive representation, but they also want a representation of their interests, as in serious practical representation. And in many other ways, people didn't really feel that Zia Yusuf was giving them that either. And as he says here, he admits that Zia Yusuf made some seriously bad errors of judgment.
Just a quick final question about the Rupert Lowe incident. Do you think that incident was handled well, particularly between reporting it to the police? Was that the right thing to do looking back?
Well, you know what? When you're a chairman, it's a bit like being a chief executive. You make lots of decisions. Most of his decisions were right. That one, well, maybe not.
Right. So that decision was wrong. The way he handled Rupert Lowe was wrong. What he did to Rupert Lowe, kicking him out of the party, reporting him to the police, making up a bunch of false allegations that the police completely dismissed because there was nothing to it, saying that he had threatened to kill him. These lies were a mistake, were they? This might be a bit more about what the issue is. Because, I mean, like I said, as long as people think they're getting substantive representation, they're actually not terribly bothered about the nature of the person, as long as that person is working in their interest. But Zia Yusuf, that didn't seem to be the case. And Nigel here admitting that he got this wrong is very important. And a bunch of other people have come out and said very similar things. For example, Gwaine Towler. Gwaine is a classic gentleman, right? And this really annoyed me, because Zia Yusuf, as he tells us, was trying to pressure him into being something else, right? Being something, a sort of press officer that Gwaine didn't want to be. And the thing is, Gwaine has done this for many, many years. He has far more experience than Zia Yusuf. If I was going to take advice from anyone, it would be Gwaine over Zia 100 times out of 100. Because Gwaine has been with Nigel for like 30 years as his press officer. Listen to this.
And he came in with, dare I say, precious little experience of politics and asked me to behave in a way that I just could not do. And I felt would be bad for the party, bad for the job, bad for what I was trying to do. And so I ignored him. And as he was the chairman, he had every right to sack me. It's simple as that. I mean, he literally did have every right to sack me. Now, I thought it was a bit, shall we say, inelegant, in that a cup of coffee, mate, it's not working. I'd have gone, you're right, it's not. How about a quick pint on Thursday, so long and thanks for all the fish? No problem at all. But to have this, what he's brought in from the city, this idea, clear your desk in 1 minute, I did think that was a bit, as I say, the joke has been, ever since me, so many people, other people have been fired, that I was the first person to be Goldman sacked.
Zia Yusuf disrespected Gwaine. He didn't take into account his experience. He told him to do something that Gwaine thought, no, this will be damaging for the party, so I can't do it. I won't do it. And Zia, rather than analysing what he had done, decided, well, you've disobeyed me, and now I will fire you. You've got 1 minute to clear your desk. That's not on. That's not on at all. You can't just buy your way to the top of a party and start bullying and firing and kicking out everyone in the party that you personally have an issue with and think this is going to go well. And you've got Tim Montgomery here from Conservative Home, where he says, well, look, Zia was trying to turn it into a professional organisation. It was modernisation. But it's like, okay, but what's the nature of the modernisation? If it's this genuinely sort of like horrible kind of thing that you're creating, why is Farage deeply involved in it? And of course, it was Ben Habib, I think they said. Yeah, Ben Habib went on Times Radio and was like, look, he was deeply damaging to the grassroots reform. Yes, he was. And so Zia had the disadvantage of being ethnically different to the grassroots of reform, which itself is not insurmountable as long as you... I mean, Ben Habib is ethnically different to the grassroots of reform, but he's so much more popular than Zia Yusuf because he is giving them substantial representation. He is acting in their interests. So it's not insurmountable. It's just that Zia didn't do anything to surmount it. He never tried to make himself likable to the base. What he did is instead ingratiate himself with Nigel Farage. And Nigel Farage, you'll notice that the only person he's ever publicly defended is Zia Yusuf. What does Zia have on him? What is this weird sort of dependence that Nigel Farage had on Zia Yusuf? It's really, really bizarre. But anyway, Aaron Banks came out and said, well, look, everyone thinks they're responsible for the meteoric reform rise. As the old saying goes, success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. Zia worked very hard, but struggled with relationships and people. Corks will be popping in the party HQ this evening. Reform will power on. Interesting how Aaron Banks says, no, the problem was Zia. The way he handled things, the way he ran the party, the way that he dealt with other people. And it's very evident that the base looked at that and thought, oh, there is someone subversive trying to harm the party, and this is why people just kept giving them a piece of their mind over and over on social media. So it is a combination of these things, but it's kind of inevitable because reform are a really weird ivory tower. There's like the elite group at the top, and then a very long, narrow pole that separates them from the 200,000 or so people who are subscribers on the website, basically. And it's like, okay, well, where's the three-dimensional nature of the party? It's incredibly narrow and thin, and like with weird command structure at the top. And just everyone else kept arm's length. Everyone else treated as an enemy. Like, it's the spirit of paranoia that pervades the Reform Party that is really the issue. And Zia Yusuf seems to be an exemplary example of that. And this, people, Nigel Farage can complain all he wants about this, but the issue is, you chose him. The fish rots from the head. These are your decisions, Nigel. Reform has a real issue with the retention of talent. Like, it shouldn't be cycling through this many people this early. Like, if you just think of Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe, and now Zia Yusuf himself, as well as Gwen Towler and various others, there have been a bunch of others who are less high profile. Like, Reform shouldn't be rotating through that many people, and it's the structure that Nigel Farage has set up that is making this happen. Right? It's you're the guy in charge, and you set the tone of the way that the party works. And if the party has become paranoid and internally and fearful that someone unaccountable, I mean, Zia Yusuf has resigned as the director now. I don't know what's happened to his shares, but if someone unaccountable is just making these snap decisions and like browbeating the lower orders of the party into submission, like he was doing with Lowe and with Towler, like that's your choice, that you've made that decision and you need to unmake it. You need to fix this. But then when asked, would you allow Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe back in, Nigel says this.
Some of the people that have left the party since Mr. Yusuf came in, could there be a way back for them now? For example, could Rupert Lowe find a way back into Reform UK?
I'd rather eat razor blades after the way he's behaved and the things he said about us. No.
Ben Habib?
Good Lord, no.
Amazing, right? It's him. He personally didn't like Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib. He personally had cultivated people he felt was a threat to him, and he was using Zia Yusuf as a kind of ally, it looks like. Almost like a kind of hatchet man to deal with them. So it's like, okay, great, Nige. You're now 3 allies down. Like 3 close allies down. 2 of them very competent. One of them, I mean, wasn't, as far as I can tell, very competent from the other responses. But you are just salami slicing your own support base off. And look at this fucking smug expression. God, I'll never come back. It's like, it's you. You're the problem here. Not Lowe, not Habib, not Towler. Like, you're the one who's created this situation. You're the one who allowed it to fester. You're the one who allowed Zia Yusuf to get rid of all these valuable people. And you're the one who's going to have to pay the price for that. Literally, just as that video is rendering, Zia Yusuf posted this on Twitter, and so I'll read this. Over the last 24 hours, I have received a huge number of lovely and heartfelt messages from people who have expressed their dismay at my resignation, urging me to reconsider. Okay, but you've probably received way more messages of people saying, good riddance. After 11 months working as a volunteer, blah, 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 I only came into politics out of a sense of duty to serve the country I love. The country that has been so kind to my parents and presented me with immense opportunity. Out of a sense of duty to do whatever I could to reverse decades of decline and to make this country one we could be excited for our children grow up, I came into politics out of the belief that Nigel Farage is the man to deliver that. Having read the messages, I believe in these things more than ever. I know the mission is too important. I cannot let people down, so I will continuing to work with Reform, my commitment redoubled. Reform has come a long way given this, and we have one power at a local level. I will focus on a new role. I will be running UK Doge team to fight for taxpayers. Right, so he is going to continue working in Reform, of course, but not as the executive chairman, making decisions about the hiring. Now, who knows what this means for the future? I can't imagine that this is going to change the opinions of those people within Reform who don't like Zia Yusuf. Moreover, the supporters are still going to see him as a suspect property, aren't they? But, okay, well, like I said, this probably would have been more advantageous from the start. He probably shouldn't have been the chairman. He probably shouldn't have been making a bunch of decisions. And time, I suppose, will tell as to whether this makes any particular difference to them or not. But it's not actually that surprising.